All right. Welcome to the April 21st, 2010 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. Please rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Bravo, please call the roll.
Chair Gregory,
Present.
Vice Chair McMahon,
Present.
Commissioner Lemo,
Present.
Commissioner McKay,
Present.
Commissioner Price.
Present.
Thank you.
Any person who wishes to speak regarding an item on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction during the public comments portion of the agenda must file a public speaker card with the recording secretary before that portion of the agenda is called. Any person who wishes to speak on a specific agenda item must file a public speaker card before the specific item is called. Persons addressing the Traffic Commission are requested to state their name and city of residence for the record. Under state law, issues presented or introduced under public comments can have no action and will be referred to the Traffic Engineering Division Manager for administrative action or scheduled on a subsequent agenda. It would be appreciated if you turn off all cell phones and pagers during the meeting. As a reminder, there is not to be any dialogue between the audience and commissioners at any time. TOTV can only record your comments when speaking into the microphone. A wireless microphone is available for your convenience should you need to step away from the podium while speaking. And I have a single public speaking card. So, J.C. Simmons, please.
Mr. Gregory, Commissioners, City of Thousand Oaks. I come to you tonight, as usual, about cycling matters. Longtime resident of Thousand Oaks, actually Newbury Park, longtime advocate for safe cycling within the city. And as you know, we were recognized by the League of American Bicyclists last year as bicycle-friendly bronze after many years of work and a lot of investment in infrastructure and planning. This year, we're still in the directory. If you're a member of the League, you got a directory that looks like this. I have taken the liberty of getting the League to send me additional copies, and have marked up copies for each of the commissioners, and Sandy Bravo has those for you. Referring to similar cities such as ours, Santa Clarita, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, things they've done that we haven't quite addressed yet, different tacks on things. But please review that at your leisure, and we'll talk about that in the future. As you know, or maybe you don't know, the president of the League of American Bicyclists contacted me a couple weeks ago and says, "What are you guys doing last Saturday of importance?" I says, "Well, I don't know, we'd go ride Rockstor." And so he joined us to climb Rockstor. And a fellow by the name of Charlie Gandy came up from Long Beach. He's a complement of Kathy Lowry for Long Beach. And we had a great ride, a great lunch, a good meeting with Kathy, and I think a lot of positive things transcribed. As you also know, and the city should know, May is National Bike Month. We're going to kick it off here in Thousand Oaks with Cruising the Canal on May 8th. That's this Canal Valley Cycles charity ride. We'll have about 1,500 people come to town and ride various routes. On May 19th, we have the Ride of Silence. That's Wednesday. The commission is going to be dark that night, and there's a personal invite in the package I delivered inviting you to come ride with us. And there's also an invite there if you need to get a hold of a bike. We've made arrangements. Then that's followed by Friday, Ride to Work Day, and then Saturday, the wrap up to the Tour of California with the Thousand Oaks final stage, Stage 8. And that's really what I came to talk to you about, things that are coming up. Thanking you guys for all the positive work we're doing, and looking forward to moving Thousand Oaks up to silver. Any questions?
Are there any questions from the commissioners? No, I don't believe so. Thank you very much, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update. Okay, moving along on the agenda now. Are there any commissioner comments on the summary notes of January 20th? No comments? Okay. We have an engineering report on signs. Mr. Hellawell? Well, what? Dry mouth, sorry. It's windy outside.
Thank you very much.
ready?
This is a report to the commission on the street name sign upgrade program, which has been in the city budget this last budget cycle, which we're about halfway through on. And tonight I just want to bring the commission up to date on the progress has been made in this program and the progress that will be made in this program. Just a second, please. Okay, guys, moving ahead. The street name signs are part of a larger group of signs in California and throughout the nation, as they're known as guide signs. And we have guide signs, which are basically the green signs with the white letters, and then you got the regulatory signs, which are actually tell motorists what the laws are, and those are the white signs with black letters. And then there's warning signs, which are advisory in nature, and they're yellow signs with black letters. And they all have different shapes, and they mean different things. And of course, there's the red stop sign. But tonight, it's all about street name sign, which is a guide sign. And what's happened over the last basically 13 years is that the Federal Highway Administration has been mandating new requirements for signs and striping, and they have developed some standards of what street name signs should look like. And the state of California has followed through under the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices with actual guidelines to follow to meet those standards from the Federal Highway Administration. And then the city has been following up with our sign program here, and we have been replacing many signs throughout the city, including some of the median signs, street name signs in the medians, which we call advanced street name signs, and the overhead signs, which are on traffic signals. Looking down the road from now, that there are so many signs that need to be replaced to meet this new requirement, and we anticipate it will probably take 10 years. The city's existing sign is this type of a design, which has been here for over 40 years. It's a brown street name sign with gold letters, and the letters are a mission-style font. And we have these signs on the corners of almost every street in town. And many of the signs are reflectorized, but not all of them. In fact, very few are. They're just paint. But they have a nice style to them, and we have probably about 7,000 to 8,000 of these signs around the city. So it has a value of about $1 million if you figure out how much it's going to cost to replace these signs. And the new sign looks quite a bit different, a lot bolder, and this is the one that's been developed by the Federal Highway Administration. And it is, of course, you see right away, it's reflectorized, and in the world of sign making, they call this retroreflectivity. And this is where light such as from a headlight, strikes the sign and comes right back to the source, rather than bouncing off at a different angle. So that's the new requirement. One of the new requirements from the Federal Highway Administration is all signs have to be retroreflective. And so this is a sample sign that demonstrates what that looks like. And the font is much bigger, and we'll get into a little bit of those details in a minute. But that's basically it. What we had before, and this is what we have now. So we had to do a sign inventory to find out how big of a project this was going to be. And basically there's over 5,000 of these post-mounted signs in residential areas. And those are the signs just on the post. Sometimes there's a stop sign on the same post, and they're usually on diagonal corners of an intersection and throughout the residential area. And we have about 900 of the same type of sign, which is on our major roads and the intersection of those major roads with other roads. They could be residential road intersections or other major road intersections. And then we have about 1,000 signs or more that are post-mounted, and then they're on roads that have speed limits of 45 miles per hour and more. And then another 500 are monument-type signs, and those are the ones in the median. And then we have about another 500, which are the ones we just replaced, are on the traffic signals, which comply with the new requirements in all ways except the letter size. So they're retroreflective, they're the right kind of font, the right kind of, the first letter is a capital letter and the other letters are lowercase, etc. So we're compliant pretty well in that way. One of the things that FHWA did point out is that the compliance requirements, and basically what they've said is that if you have a federally funded project somewhere, then it needs to comply with this requirement. So they're not going to fine cities if they don't comply. They're just going to say, well, if you have a project in town and it's federally funded in part or in total, and that mostly those would be the freeways, that it needs to comply with all these sign requirements. So on residential streets, that almost never happens. So you'll see what our recommendation will be in a minute. There's other types of signs, like I mentioned before, the advanced street name signs. Tells a motorist in advance so he can make lane changes before he gets to the intersection when he's looking for a particular street. And those are usually in the median, sometimes they're on the side of the road. There's another example. The first one, this one was a monument style brick one. Most of them are these wood signs in the median. And then of course we have the overhead sign, which is probably the most useful right now, that's attached to the traffic signals. So I'll go through a few of the options that were identified. The first one is we don't do anything. And so we don't do anything, we just wait. If we ever have a federally funded project on a particular road, then we have to bring that particular road up to the new standards before we finish the project. And that's basically the requirement. Other than that, FHWA is saying that you're either compliant with a total program or you're non-compliant, and that's just how they kind of term it. So looking at if there's no project, we would save about $500,000 by not replacing the signs, and we would not be penalized unless we had a federally funded project, which is at this point probably unlikely. The disadvantage is that the newer signs are of course easier to see. You can see them just as well at night as you can during the day, whereas the existing signs, the brown sign with the mission lettering, at night it's very difficult to see these signs. And So that's the disadvantage of not doing anything. And this option number 2 is to replace all the signs in one huge project. The advantage to that is that it's all done. We bring it all up to standard. There's several thousand signs that would have to be installed almost at the same time. And we would spend quite a bit of money, probably over $500,000. And right now, currently, there are not any funds available to do that type of project. So this option obviously would not be viable at this time. Option number 3 is to postpone approach, postpone the replacing the signs until funds are available, and possibly maybe new funding programs would open up and the city could apply for those funds, begin a replacement program, and eventually finish the project. But it doesn't look like that's going to be likely. So we may have opportunities, and then again we may not. And so we're just saying that if we do postpone this, it just will result in not having the more visible signs on our streets, and we won't be in compliance when the FHWA ever takes a look at our city. So the fourth and the last option is to begin an action plan now and proceed kind of gradually through the process. Our current budget, we've budgeted $50,000 to do some replacements this year and next, $50,000 per year to do some replacements, and based on current costs, that'll replace about 300 signs. And with this option, we're really demonstrating to the lawmakers that, yeah, we are trying to comply, we just don't have the money to do it. And the disadvantage is that projecting this out in the future, it'll take 8 to 10 years to finish this project. So engineers is recommending an action plan, and basically it follows along option number 4, which is to maintain the existing 5,000 mission-styled signs that are located in residential areas. So that's the brown sign with the yellow mission-style letters, is to leave those in place because they're on low-speed roads, 25-mile-per-hour roads, residential areas, and people are traveling at a lower speed, and so they don't need to identify the name of the sign that quickly, so they have more time to react. And there are signs, the brown signs with the yellow letters, actually kind of traditional here, almost historic, because they've been here for so long, and a lot of people like them. So putting up a bigger sign with bright, which would be brighter, and it doesn't really blend in with the environment as well as those green signs with the white letters. But so that's the plan here, is to leave them in residential areas, at least for the time being, for the next few years, and then continue to budget the $50,000 per year like we have been doing, and continue to replace the median signs and begin a new program which will replace the post-mounted signs on the major streets. And we'll get into that, some details of that in just a minute. So basically we're going to divide this program into 3 phases, and we're going to begin the first phase this year, probably take 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years, and we'll start replacing the signs on the major roads first. This would be the major high-speed roads like Thousand Oaks Boulevard, Moore Park Road, Lynn Road. And basically we have reviewed this and studied the matter, and based on a number of different factors, we've developed a priority list. Now, some of those factors would include, is the major road in a residential, it goes through a residential area or goes through a commercial area, and more likely there are a lot more trips per day in the commercial areas where people are actually needing to identify cross streets and destinations ahead of time. It's also one of the factors is the speed of the traffic, the volume of the traffic, how much pedestrian bike use there is on the particular road, the citizen input, and also collisions that are correctable. So for 2010, the very first part here is we're recommending we begin with Thousand Oaks Boulevard. For the next half of this fiscal year, we begin replacing the signs beginning at Moore Park Road and proceeding east. These would be the post-mounted signs that are low elevation on the diagonals of each intersection. And there should be 4 signs per intersection. And so proceeding along that way, hopefully we can finish that in the first year. And then beginning next fiscal year, we'll begin the 2011 portion of it, which is, of course, again, budgeting the $50,000 and splitting that up with Moore Park and Hillcrest beginning Moore Park Road at Thousand Oaks Boulevard and going north, and Hillcrest either beginning on the east side of the city or the west side. Hillcrest is one of our longer streets, so it's nearly 8 miles long. And then in 2012, to reevaluate the program. And possibly by that time we would have some new funding sources identified. There would be significant progress most likely made by that time, and then adjust the program in terms of what should be the next priorities, and always keeping in mind that it's some of the details of this new requirement is that on the major roads that are 40 miles per hour or less, the letter size is a certain height, and on the ones that are the higher speed, the letter size gets larger. So they're either 6-inch or 8-inch size lettering. And then the second phase, once we finish all the post-mounted, replacing all the post-mounted signs on the it's controlling itself. Once we replace all the post-mounted signs on the major roads and the intersections of those major roads with other roads, then we'll go to the median areas and finish up all those advanced median signs. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, commissioners who have questions? McKay, I'm sorry.
I just keep hoping it's my eyes. Is the first letter supposed to be a different font or like bolded and the rest of it not? I mean, it's particularly ugly, if you ask me. But
there's been 2 styles that have been identified by the Federal Highway Administration. One is all block letters, all capital block letters, and the other is the beginning of the word of the name of the street is a capital block letter, and the remaining is lowercase. So we've done some research where it shows that overall it's probably easier for people to read and identify a street name sign that has the beginning letter an uppercase and the rest of it lowercase.
I would agree. It just looks like the H is, if it was a computer, it looks like the H is bolded and the rest are not bold. It just seems... There's a little sign formula where the first letter is bigger,
is larger, and it's a percentage larger than the highest loop of the lowercase letters.
Okay. It's just not to my taste, but, it is what it is.
Okay, any other commissioners?
And I might like to add, before the next question comes in, is that we're proceeding with this and presenting this project to you at this point because we don't want to surprise too many people with the signs going in. Now, not that many people have noticed the signs that have already gone in, but sometimes these signs, when they get a little bit lower, such as these post-mounted signs, are only 7 feet high. So there might be some questions that come out of this from the citizens.
Okay, thanks.
I've got 2 questions. First, in regards to liability. If we're not complying according to the federal government standards, does that open us up for any additional liability if an accident takes place, or do we get named anyway? That's my first question. And my second is, do you have any indication that the government, the federal government, won't come up with another new sign and another new way of displaying what they want to get done just about the time we're finished replacing all of our signs? Is there any kind of, obviously there's no guarantees, but any kind of indication by the government? And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, in terms of the second question, changing the standard again before we finish the first one, that could happen because there's technologies changing so fast that they could come up with a new sign that's even more visible and even better quality and more attractive. Who knows? But that's why the program's moving along rather slowly. It's one of the reasons. Lack of funds that we have for this, because this money's got to come from gas tax money, which our projections right now are that gas tax income is going to drastically be reduced over the next few years, for sure, and probably never go back to what it was. But so it's going to be kind of a slow-moving, low-key project. But I think that if we have a program in place, that at least we're trying to comply. And then the first part of your question is about the liability factor. I think that could be a factor. If there's a collision and someone, as well, it wouldn't have happened if you would have had the right sign up there that I could have seen easier, then, the courts will determine that, but it could be a factor.
Thank you.
Sure. We have some more questions here. Commissioner McKay.
So replacement signs, I know from time to time signs disappear. So in this program, where you're doing residential neighborhoods later, what would you do about replacement signs? Would you replace them so that they all matched, or would you replace them with the new sign when you had to make a replacement? Because that's when I think we're going to get into mismatched neighborhoods and people will be disappointed with how it looks.
Yes, I understand that concern. And I would think that we probably would replace it with to match rather than upgrade it, because then we'd have sets of different signs.
Thank you.
One more thing I forgot to mention is that along with sign replacements, we're also replacing the block numbers, which are very helpful for people trying to find a location, an address somewhere.
Okay, Commissioner McKay.
McMahon.
Boy, am I dyslexic today? Excuse me. Sorry.
Does the city make the signs themselves, or do we order them from somewhere?
We have a fully equipped sign shop. It's a very good sign shop.
And we can make both the new and the old.
And we probably, if we add a slow pace and the signs are not huge size, we'll make them ourselves. The other option is that we have them made to order. They're specialized, but likely we'll make them ourselves. We made those up there that are samples.
I have a quick question. No one else does right now. Do you recommend doing like whole neighborhoods in the same size at one time? In other words, don't like put a couple of the newer types in due to accident or whatever. I think that came up, but it seems to me like it would be a little strange to drive around and have that. But I was thinking about sources of revenue for these signs, and as I see it currently, the limitation really is budget. And I think you've done a thorough analysis on, the priorities, certainly the main thoroughfares and all that. What if some creative thinking out of the box funding could come about for neighborhoods, let's say, that might want to make a donation, let's say, to get their signs upgraded, maybe help the city out? Would something like that even be entertained?
Yeah, so if that were to happen, it'd be, case at a time. We would review it.
So my Adopt a Sign program is now moving forward. And we're going to have an eBay auction, see who's the highest bidder for my street, okay?
Well, one of the things that I mentioned a little bit earlier is that before we actually get to the point where we go to the residential neighborhoods, the whole program should be reevaluated again, and that's several years still ahead of us. You know, the main thing is to get the higher volume roads taken care of first, and then see how the funding situation pans out, and then reevaluate, and then maybe restructure the whole program. Maybe not proceed at all any further, or maybe proceed into the residential neighborhoods and start with, like you suggest, maybe a cooperative program or something.
Sure. Just thinking out of the box. Commissioner Price?
Yes. So might understand that this program has actually already begun. You've started putting some new signs out.
Yes, sir. Yes, it actually was 1997 was when the first few changes were made, and we were given periods of time to get it accomplished. So we've been working at it for quite a long time, but we realized we got to take the next bold step, and that's start replacing those lower signs.
So the new standards from the FHWA were adopted in 1997?
I believe so, yes.
Because I noticed in the background here, the FHWA compliance dates go all the way up to December of 2018. It seems like they've given quite a bit of time to get this program. We just recently undertook.
Yeah, that was the last part of it. I think they reviewed it in 2003, and they said, okay, this last part, you have to have a program, and compliance date would be 15 years later, which puts it at that time. So they give a lot of time, probably because I believe they know we don't have any funding.
Sure.
And we, like other thousands of agencies, don't have the funding.
Yeah, the costs are obviously significant. And while we're on the subject of the costs, I just had a question here on Phase 2 of the description, and I think this is the city's plan, Phase 2 and 3, where it talks about replacing approximately 500 advanced medium sign name on monument type medians and those are 8-inch high letters, is $250,000. Yet replacing 500 overhead signs on traffic signal arms with 12-inch letters is at $100,000. Just seemed to me that those figures were a bit askew.
But they're a different kind of sign. The median sign is a more complex sign. We're now going to composite materials that will last rather than the wood materials, and those signs take a while to construct, so there's quite a bit of labor involved on the median signs, and then they have to they're typically bigger signs, and then the ones that are hanging from the traffic signals are regular shop signs, and they just have brackets.
So the median signs then includes the structure that surrounds it?
Yes.
Okay. That makes perfect sense then. Thank you.
Commissioner Lemo?
Just a couple of quick questions. As virtually everybody knows, a lot of what's happened in the city was funded by developer fees. What I'm wondering is, because we're a pay-as-you-go city, through the permit process, whether it be commercial permits or whether somebody wants to put an addition on their house, could you prorate a small portion of fee that would be part of the permit fee? Say every permit goes up $15, and that goes into this pot. And those are arbitrary numbers. I have no idea what a permit is to put an addition on your house, but if you're making some kind of improvement to your home, then that pot goes into effect for your street, so that, even if it only took off 10 or 15% of the cost over this 10-year period, it might be a way to take an edge off of some of the money. Are you aware if we've gone through any kind of formula to see if that pay-as-you-go type of thing for improvements or new building by development comes into play?
Well, development has installed most of these existing signs through the years.
That I did know.
The standards, we have road standards that have 7 or 8 pages devoted to street name signs. And so when a subdivision goes in, they've been required to put in that brown sign, mission style letter sign to our specs, and they've all done it. Now, it's outdated, so we have to do it ourselves. Now, how that's going to be funded, right now we have a funding source, at least this budget cycle. Find out, I guess, when, next time. There might not be one then. And then we'd have to look at some of those ideas. Well, I would like to point out, though, that we are going to change, we have to update our standards, too. And that'll be another element in this whole upgrade program. And so we're going to be doing that, so that a new development comes in, well, they're going to be putting in the new signs. So they could have a new development come in. It probably isn't going to be any large subdivisions. There's nothing left. But whatever it is, there may be 1 or 2 signs that'll all of a sudden appear in this new development because it has to meet the new standards. And the whole basis behind what FHWA is trying to do here is to improve safety, and they're all about safety. And their research and their studies all show that if a motorist can identify where what lane he wants to be in, where he's going to make his turn ahead of time, that he'll do so with more certainty and certainly with more safety. And so that's what the whole behind this thing is. So if you have any more questions?
I have none. Sounds good. Remember, you heard it first here. Adopt a sign. It's your baby. You can say that's my sign. Anyways, are we ready to move? Okay. No, but we're moving down our list here. Okay. Let's see. Status reports. We have none. Commission referrals. I see none. Work program and commission schedule. See attached here. So it really just lists some upcoming agenda items. Are there any comments on those agenda items by staff?
Well, the first one is an action plan on traffic calming on major roads. And this has been a result of some successful engineering that we did on the Lynn Road traffic calming. And so we're going to looking at other major roadways where we can do similar things, and we're going to try similar measures to slow traffic down a little bit to keep it within the speed limit. So, and then the second item is we're going to be talking about some pedestrian-friendly improvements, which are basically in the past at our traffic signals we've to make them more flow efficient, we allow pedestrians to cross at 3 of the 4 legs. And this is a timing thing. And in some cases, we have 135 signals throughout the city. In some cases, it makes a lot of sense to keep it that way, 3-legged approach where pedestrians can cross at 3 legs of the intersection, but not at the 4th, because technically it doesn't make sense. But there's some intersections where actually we can do that without a significant drop in the level of service. So we'll be looking at those locations, and I'm going to report to you on them. Okay, I see one of the things to consider here with the light schedule
that I guess we should discuss would be to set our next meeting for July 21st. Are there any comments from the Commissioner McMahon?
The May meeting, if we were to have the May meeting, would conflict with the Ride of Silence. Last year I participated in it and it was wonderful, but I could only go so far because we had a meeting. And for those of you who did not participate, it was a really nice event. We had, I don't know, 6 or 8 police officers on bikes throughout the group. We had police officers in front leading us and in back. We had the traffic signals stopped so that we could just move at a nice steady pace all through the town. And it was a really, really nice thing. So I encourage everybody to do that. And so I encourage us to cancel the May meeting so that we can all participate in that and do the whole thing and not stop off here and have a meeting.
That's certainly one thing to consider. The other commissioners have any input?
I absolutely agree with Commissioner McMahon that we should cancel May so that we can participate in the ride. And the other question would just be to Mr. Helliwell, that are any of these items in the future work program something that you are going to need us to meet on before July?
No.
Then I would be in favor of canceling both May and June, because that week in June, for those of us that have kids in the UC system, is graduation week.
I have no issues. I mean, if we have nothing coming up in June, I know we normally go dark in August, so that would give us July to pick up anything that comes. Do we need a motion on this? All right, please go ahead, Commissioner Price.
I would make a motion that we cancel the May 19th meeting and the June, whatever that date would have been, 16th meeting, and reconvene in July for our regular meeting.
July 21st. Can we just do a show of hands?
Yes.
Can we go all in favor?
All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Are you up, Sharon? Yeah. 5-0. Thank you.
Oops. Traffic Commission comments, discussions? Okay.
I have a question for Officer Harwood. Because it's happened twice now, and it isn't the same yellow motorcycle, and I don't know if it just has to do with guys on yellow motorcycles, but they, and maybe it's because they're yellow, but I was following one turn off Thousand Oaks Boulevard right on Herbs, and he was slowing down, so I slowed down. And then I finally noticed that this little tiny light on the back of his bike was blinking that was a turn signal, but it was a yellow light. He was wearing, yellow leathers in his yellow motorcycle. But no hand signals. Is that, I mean, I didn't seem very safe. That's his deal. But are they supposed to use hand signals? Or if they have this little Christmas light on the back of their bike, is that okay?
Well, as long as he has a traffic or a turn signal, it's legal. However, the way you described it, a yellow motorcycle with a yellow rider with a yellow... Is it on?
Yeah.
No? How about now? Oh, sorry. I mean, the way you described it with a yellow motorcycle, wearing a yellow uniform with a small yellow light, I could see exactly what you mean. It'd be hard to see. But I don't think it's illegal for him to do it. However, I think it's unsafe, or at least for his benefit.
Yeah, I slowed down behind him because I thought my initial thought was something might be wrong. He obviously wanted me to go around, and I got the universal signal that I had done something wrong, but I actually was concerned that something had gone wrong, that he was slowing down in front of me, but it was just really odd. And then the same thing happened to me on Lynn Road, and it's these guys in the yellow motorcycles and these little yellow Christmas lights on the back. I'm like, are you guys nuts? I mean, it just...
Do you see a lot of them around town? Because I haven't seen them, and I'm out on a motorcycle 4 days a week.
Well, it's been twice since we met last that I've seen these yellow motorcycles with choosing to use their yellow turn signals, and they both wore yellow jackets, which I just found, but they were different jackets. I know my coats, but it was just very odd to me and just seemed incredibly unsafe, but I just didn't know what the rules were with that. So
yeah, as long as they have a turn signal that complies, it'd be legal.
Didn't say it was smart, just legal. Okay.
Okay. We do have some engineer status reports. The bicycle advisory team status. I see in one of the meetings, Commissioner McKay attended, and they basically discussed the new parking restrictions around Westlake High School. Any comments you want to add to that?
There hasn't been a lot of complaints, which I was actually, because we took parking spaces away, thought we might get some complaints, but there was plenty of parking on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. The kids just have to walk further. Maybe around football season, because those parking places won't exist for people to go to the stadium, we might get some complaints then. But they were unsafe. They needed to go.
That's good. Good work. I also see a little later that Commissioner McMahon was part of, this was the bicycle lanes down Lynn, was it?
There were two meetings. They were kind of combined into one. The first was adding bicycle lanes to Lynn on the north side of the freeway. And it was actually pretty cool because the city asked for the bicycle advisory team's opinion, and it sounds like they're going to actually utilize it, and it was really nice to see. And the second item was the widening and redoing of the Wendy freeway crossing, and they're trying to work it out so that it's safer for bicycle riders to go across. This has been a problem with bicycle riders all through the city trying to get across the 101, and it appears that they're going to use our input on that item too. And I wanted to give kind of a shout out to Kathy Lowry, because she was instrumental in getting these two meetings together. She's the person at the city who is everything bicycle. She's the support for all the bicyclists in the Caneo, and she does a great job. She's very proactive, on the ball, and I think without her, we wouldn't have gotten that bronze that we did get. So anyways, it's really nice to see our city so aggressive to help bicycle riders, and they were working with Caltrans and convincing them to do some very new and innovative things. So it's kind of exciting, really nice.
Any other comments about that report?
The one on Wildwood, and we know about Wildwood since it has come before us, and we put in the smart crosswalk and peeled back the median to make it a solid crosswalk. A lot of work was done at Wildwood to make it safer. There was then there was a tree that was making left turns, the view kind of difficult, so the city took care of that. And then lastly, there was this issue of the no parking was not marked very well in a certain area, which is what we met with over there. But in general, going back to Wildwood after we all visited there, we all saw it is so much better over there with the improvements that were made. So if anyone's ever questioned whether that was worth it, it absolutely was.
I myself noted something that they had discussed, which was news to me, and that was some raised bike lanes. I'd never heard of that before. And I was glad to see that they were analyzing whether that might make travel safer on Lynn Road or not. And I think the consensus was in that they really need to see some sites where they were implemented before any decision could be made. But I'll be interested to see how that comes out in the future. I believe that's the last thing on our agenda. So I will adjourn. The Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission is now adjourned until 7:30 p.m. Wednesday, July 21st, 2010, in the boardroom of the Civic Arts Plaza. Good night, and thank you all.